Hi, and welcome back, class, to another live stream, to another work watching where you watch me work on various projects. Today, I'll be breaking down how I set up my blog with WordPress. I used Elementor as the theme, and I'll be sharing some tips and tricks of what I learned along the way through the frustrations of WordPress that I'm sure many of you have experienced or at least heard about. So let's jump right in. I'll show you what my blog currently looks like. This is my blog. You can find it under blog.sonjageracsek.me or just go to my website sonjageracsek.me. I'll drop it in the chat as well. That way I can also test if the chat is working correctly, and it seems to be working fine. Hi Simon, welcome. I thought there was nobody out there. I let the intro run a bit long today because I had a feeling that nobody was joining in, but there was, alas, there was Simon waiting. So I'm happy that I'm not alone today. Okay, so this is my blog. It's still in the very early stages. I tried to populate it with a few articles that kind of reflect what I was posting to Instagram at the time, but I did expand on the thoughts back then. So some of these posts are backdated. Even though I only just launched the blog, I seem to have posts from earlier this year. Oh, magic! The magic of the time machine. So yeah, I did backdate a few posts, which is possible when I've used Blogger before as a blog website. I've used some other blogging sites before, and usually you're able to backdate your posts. So if you are considering wanting to start a post but not wanting to launch an empty post, which was the case for me, I didn't just want to announce my blog and then have nothing on there for people to look at, because in my opinion, when I receive a notification or a shout out or an invitation to something, I want to look at it then and there, or not look at it at all until I have time to look at it, which is why I have like 83 unread newsletter emails, because as soon as I open that thing and it becomes read, then there's a very small likelihood that I'll go back to that thing if I haven't finished looking at it. So in my mind, if I'm going to announce something and the people receive that notification, like for instance, I have a newsletter as well. You can find that on my website as well. If you go to mailinglist.sonjageracsek.me, list.sonjageracsek.me, you can subscribe to the newsletter, or you just go to my website. It's, at the top bar. So I was going to send out a newsletter. I send a newsletter out once a month at the end of the month. I kind of sum up what I've learned that month, or if I had any type of revelation that month, I learned something, or I also share links of things that I found useful throughout my creative journey, like podcasts that I listened to, articles that I've read. So these are the types of things that I share on a regular basis once per month through the newsletter. So for that newsletter, which just came out not yesterday, it's on the last Friday of each month. So that would have been on the 25th. The 25th is when the newsletter came out. And basically, I was nearly finished with the blog, and I wanted to announce it. I was like, well, that's the best opportunity. I don't have a very large mailing list, but I do have a few subscribers. So I thought, might as well announce the blog. And then I realized, well, I don't want to announce the blog with nothing on it, because when I receive a newsletter, I don't read it until I have time to actually read it and to open each link that is interesting to me in that newsletter, which is why I have so many unread emails. So, and if I then take the time to read it, I expect it to be what it's advertised. So if it's advertising a blog, I expect there to be stuff to be read, because if I'm looking at it in that moment, then I need to be able to read whatever is on there in that moment. I will most likely forget going back to that blog or that article or whatever it was that was sent to me, if there is nothing there in that moment. So I was like, okay, there should be something on here. So I created a few posts that, you know, they are real posts. They are based on posts that I shared on Instagram. Oops, sorry. They are based on posts I shared on Instagram about. So I've kind of, let's rewind a little bit. And I'll explain to you what my thinking is about posting on Instagram. So in the recent years, or in the recent months, not years, I've changed my strategy of what I'm sharing on Instagram. Hi, Tom. Thanks for joining. I'm just talking. Oh, thanks. Yeah, it was my birthday yesterday. Thank you, Tom. It was that was a strange birthday. I was sorry to veer off from what I was just saying, but I thought I just mentioned my experience celebrating my birthday yesterday, which was obviously a Corona birthday, and I was just at home with my partner, and I hadn't. First of all, when we were celebrating his birthday in May, which was a Corona birthday as well, I was like, well, my birthday is in November, so I'll probably get to have a party, so it shouldn't be a problem, right? Ha ha ha! Well, what a fun turn of events. Here we are, still in semi-lockdown, still under COVID. So we were just at home, and I was like, yeah, that's fine. We'll just get something nice to eat. We'll pick it up, eat it at home, and we'll just have we live in Germany, and in Germany there is a very strong mulled wine culture during the Christmas period. So it's like cooked wine. It's usually red wine cooked with spices and citrus fruits, and you get mulled wine, for those who don't know what mulled wine is. And we're just gonna make that, have some dinner, and as the day progressed, I was just getting more and more downcast, and I couldn't quite put my finger on it. I couldn't quite explain why I was feeling strange about it. But yeah, I was feeling more and more down, and then we were having food, and my partner had to go to a very specific restaurant that we wanted to get the food from. It wasn't very close by, but they weren't open when he went by at the time, so everything was getting a little bit more complicated, and yeah, so it wasn't what I was expecting. I mean, even though I had very low expectations, it was still not what I was expecting. And then suddenly he was on the phone, and people are messaging him. What's going on? Can we not just have a quiet dinner? This is literally the only thing I have now. And then eventually it turned out that he had organized a kind of Zoom. We weren't actually using Zoom, but I'm calling it a Zoom birthday party. And he had organized a bunch of our friends and my cousin and my family, my parents, to be on the call, and we were just kind of being together without being together. And I got a present from everybody, one collective present, which was a new sewing machine, because I'm really getting into sewing lately, and that was a purchase I was kind of humming and hawing over, and wasn't sure if I wanted to buy that, because a good sewing machine it costs blah 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 costs quite a bit, and and so in the end they got it for me. I felt super blessed, and that was the moment I realized, oh, okay, so I was upset because I wasn't going to see anybody, and I had thought to myself that was going to be okay, but I guess deep down I didn't feel like it was going to be okay. And that was so sweet. And that was like, my partner had already, for last year, he had already organized like a proper surprise party. Like, I didn't know anything, all the people were in the room and they turned the light on, like in the first time in my life that was a real surprise party. So he's really good at organizing these sort of surprise things. I felt extremely happy. It was like the best thing under the circumstances, and it was something I didn't even realize I needed. So that was really, really nice. But okay, enough about me and my birthday. Where was I? Okay, so I kind of changed what I was doing in the past few months during lockdown. Basically, I've kind of thought about more what I wanted my social media to be, especially on Instagram. So I've kind of re-evaluated what I wanted to do, and I do have a motion graphics design business. I am a motion design freelancer. If you don't know what I do, if you're here for the first time, that's what I do. I animate things like this, for example, little cute things, but also kind of event trailers and adverts. Just to give you an idea of what an event trailer is, it's kind of like a teaser for an event that a brand might have. So this is an example of an event trailer. And so I do this to kind of help clients showcase their products, their brand, or their event. So this is my commercial work that I do. But on a personal note, I am also an educator. So I create online courses. You can find those on my website if you'd like. And in general, outside of just creating online courses, I also just like sharing information, sharing tips and tricks, advice, things that I've learned through my work, which is what I'm doing right now with you, with the live stream. And basically, I realized I want to reflect that on my Instagram as much as my work, because I'm not booked to the extent that I can churn out a client project every other day or like once a week, and that's kind of more spread out in between personal projects and between other things that I do. But I did want to have a more consistent posting schedule. I wanted to be more present in the creative community on Instagram. And so I found this kind of mix between starting the live stream, which I post on Instagram Live as well as Twitch and YouTube, then making these like short kind of tips and tricks and advice videos that I used to post on TikTok and now post on Reels. And then in between that, I wanted to showcase my work, to attract clients, be part of the animation community, but also kind of share my passions. So I consume a lot of entrepreneurial podcasts where a lot of people hit hard on the thought of sharing what you're passionate about, right? Don't just make pretty pictures, but share what other people might relate to, and other people relate to things that mean something that you are passionate about. You connect on the same level, basically. So I kind of started curating my feed to be a mix of these three things: the educational content, the sharing my passions, who I am through my artwork, as well as, the streams and the reels. So now I actually have a dedicated post schedule. On Mondays, I post a reel. On Tuesdays and Fridays, I post a stream, for which I always have this sort of frame, this sort of thumbnail that I can post onto the grid. Before, I just posted my streams like this. It was just the screenshot or like one of the moments of the stream, which kind of looks really bad in the grid. So I kind of started curating that as well, along with the reels. And now I'm also posting regularly, either Wednesdays or Thursdays. So always in between the two streams, I want to post an animation. Now, and here is where the blog comes in. So basically, I started curating, and this at this point it's still a little bit messy, but I think here at this point I'm really sticking to the schedule. So I'm posting a reel, a stream, an animation, a stream, a reel, a stream, an animation, and so on. So, and even on those days that I'm like canceling the stream or I'm not able to stream, I'm still posting, or I've decided to still post a stream post, so to speak, just so that I can maintain this like structured grid look that in between each non-stream post or non-stream there's a reel or an animation post. But and here's where the blog comes in. I know I said that already, but basically, but I have a very low follower count, and I do find that when I post, especially when I post my small short form content, animations, or like GIFs and stickers, depends on what you want to call it. Like this, for instance, I would call this a GIF or a sticker because I did save this out as a sticker format for Giphy as well. So when I post those, this is like the stuff that showcases my work, that also talks about, I try to always talk about something that goes beyond the mere animation aspect of the post. So in this one, I kind of try to highlight that, you know, Thanksgiving isn't all shits and giggles for everybody, and it's based on a quite tragic history of North America. So I try to always talk about something that is close to my heart, something that matters to me in some way, or something that I'm thinking about. So I kind of combine a think piece with the animation that I'm posting, so that my posts aren't just vapid, look at these pretty pictures. But I find that you can see here, this one has 32 likes and 2 comments, and I appreciate those likes, absolutely I do, but I do find that whatever I post, it doesn't get a lot of screen time, and also I feel like I'm constantly in the Instagram algorithm machine, and I'm trying to figure out hashtags, and I'm trying to figure out this, that, and the other, and I did feel sometimes losing the sense of, why am I even doing this? Like, why am I putting so much effort into like understanding the algorithm and fighting with the social media machine, when I can just create these pieces that can live not only on Instagram, but also on my website as a blog, where I can put way more effort into like a really nicely curated post. So I can embed videos, I can embed links in that, you know, it doesn't have to be for more information, link in bio, stuff like this. So I decided, all right, enough with the social media machine. I want to veer off feeding solely or creating content solely for social media, or in my case it's more Instagram. On Twitter it's more conversational for me. I do very little promotion, but Instagram it's kind of a business tool in my mind. And many entrepreneurs or people within the creative industry talk about not building your house on somebody else's land. Because imagine I've put all of this effort into posting all of these things and writing quite extensive descriptions for each of these posts. I've invested so much effort into posting on Instagram. If Instagram went away tomorrow, I'd have my work. But all the time I've put into curating my thoughts and writing all of that stuff and kind of curating this entire feed, it all goes away. And I kind of need to start from scratch. So that's where I thought, well, I don't have to cut out Instagram. That's not actually useful. What would be more useful is integrating it into something that I already own, which is my website. So I can expand my website to become a blog where I can write longer articles, curate them the way I want them, or rather, lay them out the way I want them to be laid out. And I can still post the animation. So this was an animated surface pattern I did with Lara Mascareño. And I can still do these animations. I'm just gonna, I'll just leave that full screen for a second. I can still do that. I can still post to Instagram, but the focus won't be Instagram anymore. And maybe that will eventually also take the pressure off of trying to beat the algorithm. I won't have to think about the hashtags. I'm like, it doesn't matter anymore. I'm doing this for me. And if people find it, if people through the blog maybe find the website, or through my website find the blog, it all serves me rather than serving Instagram, if you know what I mean. So I have some questions in the chat that I will address. Yeah, Simon, my friends were so sweet for showing up for the COVID birthday and the Zoom party. That was so sweet. Thanks. Oh, I'm so glad. I'm so glad that what I'm saying is useful to you, because sometimes I'm not entirely sure if I'm just rambling because I'm like, I have all of these thoughts in my head and I'm like, this is what I'm thinking, this is where I was going. And when I'm in like the heat of explaining my thinking and what I was like planning with that, I stop. I can't listen to myself at the same time while I'm talking. So sometimes I'm not sure I'm making sense. I need to drink something. Sorry, I need to cough a little. Oh, that was a bit of a coughing fit. So basically, I do have a set post time. My analytics, Instagram analytics are saying that most of my followers are active at 6 p.m. in the evening and after that. So there's barely any engagement before that. So I always post around 6 o'clock. You can see that my streams, they start at 5 p.m., but it takes some time before people are arriving, before they're actually engaged. And once I'm finished streaming, I would be posting that to Instagram around 6 or 7 o'clock. So it's always around that time. Most of my days, at least according to the analytics, most of my days are the same. So I don't really have a peak day. I try to, oh my God, somebody's doing works in my house. That just scared the shit out of me. Oh my God, who's doing works at 6 p.m? That's so rude. That's so un-German. Anyway, sorry, I got so scared. Basically, I have a schedule, but I'm sick of fighting against the Instagram algorithm. I want to shed that skin of having to be on the top. I mean, the whole point of why I'm here, which I sometimes lose sight of, the whole point of why I'm here is that I want to share a unique perspective. I want to help people, and I want to share my experiences and my knowledge. So if people find me on Instagram, great. If people find me on YouTube, great. If they eventually find my blog, that's also great. So I'm kind of, with me saying this and with me starting the blog, I'm trying to instill in myself this notion that it doesn't matter about followers, it doesn't matter about views, none of these things matter, because they're just superficial counters of what any of this is that I'm trying to do. And what I'm trying to do is share the information. So even though I don't fully believe that yet, and I'm still constantly checking the insights of each post, I'm trying to shed that mentality, because it's really not useful. It's making me constantly anxious. It's making me constantly feel like this post failed over that post. This one got way more views, and also having to prepare posts with like, oh, what hashtag works? I'd like to, at least to like 60% or 70%, I'd like to shed that mentality and just focus on sharing the information. And if people find it useful, that's the point, not how many people see it. So, what platform have I used? I decided to go for WordPress. I found that it's the most used. I did use Blogger before for very, very, very basic blogs. Those were not even designed. Those were literally made an account, started posting. It's because we used to be required to keep a development blog during uni when I was at university. And just kind of as a, I guess for... I was doing a digital arts degree, computer arts is what it was called, at University of Aberdeen Dundee, whoop whoop. And basically everything was digital. We did have some fine arts courses and traditional animation courses, or lectures, I suppose. But it was mainly all about being digital, and so we were required to keep a blog to kind of document our progress, our journey throughout each subject, and also to keep a sketchbook. So, you know, to encourage us to explore, to expand, to develop, and so on. So I did have a blog very early on in my career. But yeah, I didn't design it. I didn't try to make it look cool or pretty or whatever. It was just a blog. It was there and I was posting it. Now with this approach, I did actually design it, and it might look extremely simple to you, and that's fine. I want it to look simple. Hi, welcome to the stream. The most important thing about this blog was that it would reflect my website. And if you pay attention now, I'm going to switch between, I'll go to a more regular page, like maybe the toolkit or the contact page. So if I switch between these two pages, obviously you have the black bar at the top there that will not go away. So it does jump a little bit. You don't have 100%. Actually, I can try this on a guest account. That way I won't have the black bar because I won't be logged in. So I just want to show you that I really tried to get this blog to look exactly as close as possible to my website as I could, because the blog, I have a website host that does not have the option for a blog. It only has the option to import or link, I suppose, a WordPress blog. So it's not like Squarespace. It's very similar to Squarespace, and I really like my website host. I'm super happy with it. It costs me like $50 a year, not a month, a year, for domain, email, and website hosting. I'm still on like the first year or 2 years of trial period, or like, you know, first time user discount. So this money, this price will go up eventually. But so far, I've had it for 2 years now, still only paying like $50 a year. It's absolutely amazing. Super happy with all the services so far. It is simple and but that works for me. The only thing is it doesn't have a built-in blog like something like Squarespace does. And yeah, I'm not sponsored by anybody that I'm mentioning in this video. I do not have any sponsors. So take my word as just my personal opinion. Okay, so this is the blog. And this is my website. You can already see there's like this tad of kind of a jumping going on in the header. That's because WordPress, to begin with, it's very difficult to set up. It's such a pain, okay? But I found a theme. A friend of mine, Idequam Mortare, he's also a streamer. Go check him out. He's a developer and he runs his own blog. And he recommended a theme called Elementor to me. There is a paid and a free version of that. I'm currently using the paid version. And so that one gives you quite a lot of freedom to apply certain templates. Like I can create a template for the header that will then show up on all the pages when I go through the blog. The only annoying thing is that apparently I'm no longer on the blog when I go to these pages, which I didn't realize. But that's okay. So every time I'm on the homepage, you know, everything looks the same. It has a footer as well. Okay, yeah, so on my blog, when you're scrolling, the header stays at the top. That's something, I don't think that's something I can influence. Maybe I can, I don't know. Point is, I'm not willing to go into the code of WordPress at all. I've used WordPress in the past. I've tried to like modify things, go into the code, and eventually something breaks. I'm like, I'm not touching anything apart from this template. And it took me about 3 days of complete and utter chaos, frustration. I was brought to tears. There was a moment I was like, I'm gonna throw this whole thing out the window. But after 3 days of really fighting through WordPress, its archaic structure and the theme that you put on, I managed to make it work and make it kind of look like my website, and I'm fine with this. Now all I need to do is go into the WordPress backend, write a post, give it a title. I can even add things, like I can embed things like this GIF, or I think in this one I can even embed a video. I've got a YouTube video here and a Vimeo video here. It does funny things with the YouTube video. It makes it kind of squished. I don't know why that is, but either way, I can add all of these things and it will perform as expected once I set up the template. And that's all I wanted, okay? That's it. That's all I want. And to be quite honest with you, even just setting this up the way it is, it took an enormous amount of effort. You know, it's a very simple looking setup. All I have at the top are all of the pages I have on my website plus the blog, which obviously sends you to a different website, but it should feel like you're on the same website, which I think it achieves. The reason it's not exactly the same is because my website host just works slightly differently than this theme does. Even though I made the bar the same size as on my website, it just doesn't appear the same way. Even though I have no margin or padding on my website for the header here, for the links on the header, somehow there is, or rather here on the blog, there is padding somehow. Those are just the quirks you're gonna have to accept if you are working in the system where you already have a website and you have to plug in a blog that potentially leads to a different website. So it all still works under the same domain because my website host allows me to embed, it's not really embedded, but it allows me to just click, I want a WordPress website, and then it sends me to WordPress, creates all of the documentation and everything. It asks me upfront what I want the subdomain to be, which obviously is blog.sonjageracsek.me because my domain is sonjageracsek.me. And it just creates all of that. And then it's up to you to design it. So I didn't have to, at least I didn't have to deal with that. I didn't have to deal with how to create a, a DNS username and a password and I don't know, all that stuff. I didn't have to deal with that, okay? So that was a plus for me. But yeah, just be forewarned. WordPress is a beast, and I think it has the same legacy problems as Adobe does, or a lot of Adobe products. It's so old, and like Animate CC, for instance, it used to be Flash. It used to be owned by a whole other company. There was all of this like code that was previously created. And now, because we want to retain legacy, or Adobe wants to retain legacy, it has to build upon that code. And sometimes there are bugs. Sometimes something doesn't work as you expect it to work because it's just it's not possible to reinvent itself. And I think WordPress suffers, I think WordPress suffers from the same issues, that it's just has so much established code that it kind of it's in its own way sometimes, which is why I think it's really difficult for somebody who's not very technologically literate to use WordPress, because it's not self-explanatory. There are like, I've encountered like 3 different theme settings pages. There is like a theme settings, like a global, I can show you actually, I'll just show you that. I mean, that was the whole point. So I have a theme from Elementor. And the thing that I don't quite understand is I'm using Elementor, but I additionally had to install another thing to be used through Elementor, which is called Layers. I don't know what that is. I don't know why I had to do that. Idikwa, my friend Idikwa suggested, yeah, this is probably the easiest one. It's very clean, and he was right about that. It was. Just use that. I'm like, okay, cool. I don't know why I have to use that, but fine. So basically, if I want to change the template, the Elementor template, I go into the template editor. This is my template. So now I can go to site settings, I can go to theme builder, or I can go back to the WordPress dashboard, where I can also go into other site settings and other theme settings. So this is the Elementor theme builder. So I can create all of these themes that then will appear for everything. So I have a single post theme every time I go into the WordPress dashboard, which is a whole other thing. In the WordPress dashboard, once you have everything set up, you can go to posts, you can create a new post. I'll just do that for now. And then you write a title, you write some stuff in here. And then, because you set everything up with the theme that you're using and everything, once you post that, it will then appear like your page should appear, okay? It knows already how you want this to look because you set it up with the theme. And so you're only using the post, the WordPress post feature to create your post. That's great. That's exactly what I wanted. This is why I wanted to have a dedicated blog page rather than creating blog posts on my website, because then I'd have to, design every single page and post it and create a URL, and it's a mess, okay? This is also a mess, but at least this is only a mess in the beginning. All right, this is only a mess in the setup stages. Once everything's set up, you just post. You just post and everything's fine. At least that's the expectation. But so far, yeah, that's been the truth for me. Okay, so you have the dashboard, all right? Then so this is the WordPress dashboard, which is kind of like a settings page. You've got the appearance, this is the layers thing that I have. I can go in here and I get to this settings page. Like, what is this? Okay. Then I have the theme builder, which is this page, a whole other page, and then, oh, that's not it. We're not done yet. Now, I also have the site settings page where I can set things like what different types of headers I can have, what colors they should have, what fonts I want to use, and the global colors and all of that. So those are 3 different settings pages. And that's exactly the problem. Because sometimes, usually this theme builder page, that's like the main one. This is the one you want to focus on. This is where you create your header, your footer, your single post page, your archive, the page where all of your posts appear and so on. Like, that's the most important one. But sometimes those other setup pages that I showed you, like this one, they argue with each other. And some thing that I'll show you a specific example here on my single post page. No, it's the single page. No, it's it's the commentary thing. Okay, so this is my single post page, and I have the comment section down here. Okay, so normally everything that's in this page, I can go in here and I can say, I want this title to look like this, use this color, use this typography, have a shadow, not have a shadow, all of that. I can give all of this information here on this page, particularly. But for things like the comment section, oh no, that's a different type of thing. That's dynamic content. For that, I have to go... I don't actually know anymore because I set everything up and now I don't have to do that anymore. But that's somewhere else. And that's a form template. And at first I had the issue that... Let's go back to the blog. Let's leave this page so I don't break anything. Previously, the issue I had with the comment was that this comment was huge. It was the size of the header and it was the aqua color. I call this color aqua. Okay, it was this size and this color, and this was tiny, lowercase, and black. So not even my color scheme, nothing. And these were the details that were driving me crazy, because I could change all of the page elements in the page theme creator, but I couldn't change this. I had to go to another place to do that. So these are the things that you need to be aware of when you're using WordPress and when you're using themes. You just need to kind of get into it. And I have to admit, I did make the mistake of I have this mindset of I jump in, I'll figure out how it works. And usually that mindset works fine. That's a fine mindset to have. But sometimes, like in occasions like these that are quite complex, this mindset doesn't work. And you actually have to do some research before you jump in and just do your thing. And I ended up just doing a quick search about Elementor for tutorials. And there were tutorials for exactly the thing that I had been struggling for an entire day with. And in the end, I was like, oh, I just felt after the first day of struggling with WordPress and Elementor, I realized that I was the one who made the mistake, because I didn't research anything. I could have just looked up the tutorial, follow all of the steps of the tutorial, and not have to struggle for a whole day. So I felt quite downcast after the first day of struggling with WordPress and not really getting anywhere with it. So that was a little bit annoying. But yeah, so if you decide to go this route with WordPress, and I'm not discouraging you, this is not supposed to, it's a little bit of a rant, but I'm not trying to discourage you from using it. I'm just trying to make you aware that there are things that are difficult about it, but it's not unconquerable. You might need to educate yourself beforehand. You might want to find some tutorials to kind of deal with it. And also, don't try to create something extraordinary with it, because if you try to do that, it will be a numerous amount more difficult than it already is. I try to really just create a blog. I can't imagine the struggles of creating an entire website with WordPress. I would not recommend anybody, especially people who are not technically literate, to try and use WordPress to create a website. There are far easier ways to create a website, and especially if you don't have a budget, don't go the WordPress route. It's just going to eat up hours of your life. So I really only chose WordPress because I wanted a blog posting structure where I create the design, and once that design is standing, I just write the post and post them, and they show up exactly the same every time. So that's the only reason I use that. Because yeah, if you I mean, you can always just go the website route, and you create a blog page, and then you create sub pages. Like my class page is set up this way. I have one main page, and then I have sub pages that I basically create. I mean, I duplicate. This one is already standing, the design of this is standing, and then the next one I just duplicate that design, and that's fine, and I can keep it that way. And you can do that too that way. The only issue arrives once you decide that you want to change the layout. Because on a theme like the WordPress theme I was using, is that you can change the theme and it will apply that change throughout all of your existing posts. On a website, unless you're using a page theme that goes across multiple pages, this won't happen. The change will only apply to that one page, and then you have to go through every single other page to apply those changes. I mean, of course, it depends on what your host is and if they have that feature and so on. My page does not have that feature, so this is why I opted for going for a blog setup page where I have the option to make changes for past posts as well as new posts. But I am hoping not to have to change anything on that theme now, since I've already set it up and now I can just post stuff. All right, I'm just gonna check what you've been writing in the chat while I was blabbing away. Right, okay, so I've just been reading Tom's comments about WordPress, and yeah, it's very true. Sometimes you have very grand ideas, and as Tom says, try to play Beethoven before Mary had a little lamb. So you need to start walking before you can run. You can't try and make a very complex website if your skills and your knowledge of that platform are very small. So I have used WordPress before. I know what a pain it is, which is why I went in with the mindset I'm going to do the least amount of changes. I'm going to use the simplest template so that all I need to do is create a post template so that I can write posts after that and no longer worry about what that post is going to look like, because that is going to be applied automatically. So I definitely recommend going in with this type of mindset. Yeah, that's a great expression. Beethoven and Mary had a little lamb. That's worthwhile keeping and using for other scenarios. Yeah, just take it easy. If you want to create a website, there are other options. I wouldn't go for WordPress, even though, yeah, WordPress has lots of amazing options, but it's really difficult to handle. And if you want a functioning, good-looking website, and especially if you want it for free, there are other options and far easier to handle options. If you don't know anything about website design or the technical side of things, you could use Adobe Portfolio. Granted, you only have that if you have an Adobe subscription, but if you're a creative using Adobe products, you have that option. And I did used to have an Adobe Portfolio because I didn't want to think about hosting. I didn't want to think about everything else that I needed to do. And I was at the time posting to Behance, and everything I posted to Behance could easily be ported over to Adobe Portfolio. So that's why I was using Adobe Portfolio. But at some point, I grew out of the restrictions Adobe Portfolio was posing, and I just decided I didn't want to use it anymore because I wanted to do more exciting things, like having 2 buttons next to each other in like a 2-column formation. That was not possible in Adobe Portfolio for some reason. You had to have 2 buttons below each other, and I thought that was really silly. And only at some point they added like a column structure where you could at least have text in 2 columns, but you could still not have other things in 2 columns, or forget multiple columns. That was out of the question. But, first I got acquainted with that system, and once it wasn't serving me anymore, then I moved on. I didn't try to jump into the deep end. And that mindset might not apply always. Sometimes you do need to jump into the deep end, and sometimes that's good and healthy to do. But sometimes, especially with something like this, with a blog, which is more of a passion project than client work, I didn't need to put more responsibility or more stress on myself by creating something grander than it needs to be. It's a blog. All it needs to do is convey information, function as a blog, and integrate into my website. That's all I needed. So I really didn't need to tackle any larger beast than that. And I guess you should really evaluate where you're going with your project, with the thing that you want to achieve, and how many difficulties you can handle in completing that project. And just don't take on too many. Reevaluate, is it really worth building an entire website on WordPress, or can I use a different hosting service? Sometimes it's worth just paying $50 a year for a domain and website host, So I just want to kind of go through this a little bit more. Let me know if you have any questions about the blog, about anything really. I'm here. We can have a chat. So basically, I gave you a little bit of a look into this. You can... Okay, so there's a question in the chat, and yes, can you add lines of CSS anyway? Yes, you can. You can also add raw code and CSS files. That's part of the abilities WordPress offers. However, so I've done this in the past. I've messed with the CSS and the HTML in the past, and it can work successfully, but it can also break your entire website. And I hear that echoed from even experienced developers. So I would be very careful in how you embed code, amend code, upload files to change the structure of WordPress. what I would suggest is not doing that, and instead researching a good theme that might serve you. So WordPress, you can use WordPress without any sort of theme. You can just use it as is, make minimal changes, or, you know, change the code, change the CSS. You can do all of that. But I think in the recent years, what WordPress has grown into is using themes. So it's kind of like a drag and drop, kind of like a Squarespace put on top of WordPress. And then you're no longer dealing with WordPress, you're using the Squarespace theme where you can drag and drop stuff as the manipulating system, okay? So it's kind of, it's like, yeah, I know. There are changes that I can definitely make and customize, but I just remember all of the issues that I've had when I try to mess with the code and try to make things exactly the way I want them. At this point, things are working and I don't want to break them. So that's where I am with my blog. I don't want to mess with it so that I don't break it. I just want to function. I want it to function, and I think right now I'm happy enough with how it looks. It integrates well enough with my website. The letters are close enough. The size of the font is close enough. I think the size of the font is actually the same. It's just that the bar is slightly too large. That's something I can still adjust, you know. I can still go in and change the bar. I think I can also change the padding. What I can't change is that when I'm on a page, it doesn't show this underline, because every time I try to add that, it also adds it to the normal state. It adds it to the normal state and to the active state, which is such fun since they're different states and I can change the color and everything else for them to be different, but not the underline. It will force the underline also to the normal state, which I absolutely don't understand. And that's exactly the issue with WordPress and themes, that they will just do weird things for no reason, and it's really hard to figure out a workaround. The workaround is that you apply CSS and additional HTML, but yeah, I'm not willing to do that because it's functioning, it's working, it's out there, and I don't want to break it. So yeah, that's basically it. Yeah, I don't think I have anything else to show you, really. If you have any questions, now is the time to ask. I will stay as long as anybody wants to know anything. And once all the questions are dried up, I will probably go and enjoy my evening. Not that I'm not enjoying my evening, but I'll go and sit on the couch and be a couch potato, basically. I actually also think that I'm gonna have to say goodbye to the Instagram live audience, so I'm gonna do that very quickly. Yeah, just give me a second. I'll be right back on Twitch and YouTube. Oh, right, here I am, back I am. There is another question in the chat from Tom. So, am I going to include new content? Yes, I am planning to post all new content for the blog first. So the target platform for the blog for my content will from now on be the blog. So whatever I'll be posting Wednesdays and Thursdays on Instagram will be blog first, Instagram second. So Instagram will probably become so I'll always post an animation Wednesdays and Thursdays. That's the plan. That's my current schedule, that I try to do a small animation each week to post, or a sticker or a GIF or something like that. And I always try to write something meaningful to go along with it. That's already been the plan, and that's now going to be expanded to a longer blog post. And I'll probably be posting a snippet of that on Instagram as well, which probably will also kind of market the blog again. You know, it's like all the traffic will now be pointing back at the blog, basically. But along with that, I also want to keep backlogging some of the work, not all of the work. I think the furthest back I'm gonna go is the 16th of July 2020, where I started this collab series as part of my live streams, the animation collab series, which for this one I did with Lara Mascareño. And so that's probably the furthest back I'm gonna go. I'm not gonna go further back than that. And I'm just gonna post a few more backdated posts that happened before the blog post launch, which was on the 27th of November. And 27th, I thought it was the 25th. Huh. Oh, weird. Okay, never mind, doesn't matter. And yeah, basically that's what I'll be doing. So a few backdated posts just to kind of consolidate what I was already writing about. I was showing you stuff on screen while I wasn't screen sharing anymore. Sorry, but you still get the point. So basically there's a few other things that I still wanted to talk about. There is this post, for example. I want to talk on my blog about some other personal kind of thoughts that I'm having or things that I'm passionate about. One of the things I care about is mental health, anxiety, and depression. And so some of the posts will be centered around that, as well as creative and business posts. So this blog isn't meant to be another entrepreneurial blog. It's more along the lines of, what do I care about? What do I want to talk about? And how does that tie into me creating art and animating things? So it's kind of all of these things combined. And yeah, this animation, Inhala Exhala, is it's centered around mental health, which where's my blog here, which this one, how do you stay balanced, is also centered around. So if you go in, you see it's animation and mental health. So far it's the only post on mental health. This will be the second post, which will be one of those backdated ones. So that's something I want to talk about. Then I also started a motion graphics Slack group for European motion designers or people who work in the motion design industry, but are located in Europe. And for that, we have a running challenge for each month. This was a post about that, so I might include that in it. Actually, this was a post about that too. So I don't know if I will be including all of these, because it really only is worth mentioning it once that this kind of community exists, because these animations, they don't have more of a background than the fact that it's based around this community. There isn't a larger think piece behind it like one of these animations. There is more of a kind of a more of a personal note and personal thoughts behind that one than there is behind this one. And yeah, I'll probably post a few more. I want to talk about this. This one is kind of a COVID-related posts where I created these various stickers that are based on my my stream marketing GIFs. So I created these GIFs that I frequently use in my Instagram stories, all related to my live streams. But because they are set up as templates, which actually I could show you sometime how I created these, I can make very quick changes and use these for other things, like these COVID awareness stickers. And yeah, so I just talk about how Bavaria recently, or in November, 2nd of November here, it went into kind of a second lockdown. It's a partial lockdown. It's not as strict as the first one. And so in that vein, I created these stickers. So, and here's about the election. This was actually late. I posted this after the election. But, you know, there's elections all the time in other countries. So, yeah. These are the types of ideas that I have, the types of things I want to talk about that kind of go hand in hand with my animation experience, but also my life experience and things I go through in life. I definitely want to talk about my collaboration with Leela Taylor, because I really loved this piece and I really loved working on her illustration work. So I definitely want to talk about my experience about that. And this one might be more of an animation post, talking about my experience specifically working on this project, working with Photoshop files, and how I created a certain effect in this animation. So there will be posts on my blog that target specific workflow and process things, and then there will be other posts that are more largely to do with my life, my experiences, and entrepreneurial think pieces and that sort of stuff. Yeah, so that's that. Those are the types of things I would like to include in my blog. So if you enjoy that, go ahead, check it out. If you'd like to be informed about when new posts are out there, or just be reminded that the blog exists, you can subscribe to the mailing list. I send out a newsletter once a month, so it's not like you're going to be spammed every week. I do not do that. I do appreciate newsletters who do that. That's a lot of effort to put together a newsletter. But I also appreciate the newsletters that come less frequently with more, I guess, focused information. So yeah, this is where I'm at in my social media and my business strategy journey. I hope that was informative for you. Yeah, let me know if you have any other questions. Let me also know if there are specific things you'd like to hear me talk about or take on in my live streams. Are there certain animations that you've seen that I make that you'd like me to explain, or things that you would like advice on? Thanks for joining in, Tom. See you soon. Bye. Yeah, so for those of you who are still out there, I stream Tuesdays and Fridays at 5 p.m. CET, that's Central European Time. There are times where I'm unable to stream, like particularly this day. I just needed a bit of a break, and it was in the middle of my blog launch, and I was like, sorry guys, can't make it. I need to get my eyeballs off the screen. So there are days where I'm not able to stream. I usually let you know if, it's not an emergency or something. But on the regular, I stream Tuesdays and Fridays at 5 p.m. CST. So if you like watching my process, hearing my thoughts on my work and the things that I do, tune in. I stream on Twitch, YouTube, Instagram, Picarto, which is a creative streaming platform. But you can always watch replays of my past live streams on my YouTube channel. I have multiple playlists. There is the animation collab playlist, there's the shut up and draw playlist, and there's the work watching playlist, which you're currently watching. So yeah, I do have a current animation collaboration happening with Andy Smith, who's this handsome fella over here. He's a developer who talks about IT security, and he's asked me to animate one of his videos, so I'm currently working on that, but I didn't have any progress on it, which is why I decided not to stream about that in this live stream, but I will be getting back to that collaboration again very soon. Until then, I think I'm going to say goodbye, since it seems there are no more questions in the chat. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please give it a like if you did. Click that thumbs up button. And if you'd like to support me, please do consider subscribing. If you'd like to go even a step further, you can become a patron. I do have a Patreon, which is /Sonja Geracsek. You can watch all past live stream replays on YouTube /Sonja Geracsek. And you can follow me on Instagram at Sonja Geracsek and on Twitter at Geracho. All of the links are on screen right now, but will also be in the description. I hope to see you next time. Until then, bye!